Hey guys, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining us.
So here at Designs by Arcadia, we work on a lot of furniture from the 1970s, 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, it all kind of suffers with the same problem, and that was it was often very well made. There was brands like Ducal, Ercon, G-Plan, just to name a few. Unfortunately, as I say though, they became quite old-fashioned because they lived longer than they were perhaps ever designed to. So that means that by now people are not using them, they're languishing in the back of a corner somewhere, or maybe even getting thrown away.
Absolutely. But with a little bit of creativity and some fun, you really can bring them back into the modern era and make them work in any home.
So today we're going to take a pair of Ducal Nightstands and see if we can bring them up to date, give them a fresh new look and a new lease of life. Let's see how we get on. So today then we're looking at this pair of Ducal nightstands. They're actually quite large in comparison to a lot of the stuff we get in the UK. They're pretty robust, very masculine looking. They're sort of colonial features there with the fluting and the moulding on there and the double mount handles. One of them appears to be missing, as you can see.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're very orange as well, which is a typical sort of 80s to 90s look. So they're really outdated now and they're battered as well. There's lots of gouges, marks and a lot of missing varnish all over it.
Yeah, that's the thing really with a lot of the old furniture, solid wood, especially soft wood like this, it doesn't look too bad, you know, when you buy them on Facebook Marketplace or even on initial inspection, but you tend to find that actually being so soft, they are absolutely covered in tiny little dings. You can see some of the scratches in the lacquer there and the marks, but the more you look at it, the more you can see that there's actually quite a few imperfections, so we're going to need to address those. But overall, they look nice and solid.
Yeah, they're absolutely fab actually. As we said, they are rather large, especially for the UK market. So, and they've got some fussy features on which we do want to get rid of as well.
Yeah, I think we'll look to clean these up actually at this juncture. So you can see the fluting in there, and there's also the mouldings. And generally speaking, they are either plastic mouldings or in this case, they are real wood. But nonetheless, probably a bit too fussy and a bit divisive. I think it would be easier to remove those, fill the holes and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And same with the hardware. The hardware is really outdated on these, so we're going to get rid of those and put some new pulls on these ones.
But first, time to remove the drawers.
Yes, and yeah, lots of lovely goodies in
Look at that
these.
dust. Look at all that dust. That is grim. It's amazing what you can find in there. Look at that.
Yeah, insoles from someone's shoes.
You got the fun job there, look.
I really did.
What else have we got?
I think there was keys and the other handle was in there.
The other handle, but we don't need it today, so that's okay. Oh, money. Got a discount.
Tesco card.
That's it.
And I think there was a key.
Some mints.
Yeah, I didn't really want to touch it. No, I think those were
Rennies. Pepto-Bismol tablets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so here we are then in with the vacuum. We've got to get all these cobwebs off of here, all the dust bunnies. It's the first job to do and probably one of the most important.
Yeah, because you need to be able to see exactly what needs to be done, and also you don't want the dust blowing over there when you're trying to paint it and blowing all bits of cobwebs back into your paintwork. So here we go, then it looks like it's going to be time to start removing these finials. Yeah,
so they're screwed in and then they're also glued on, so just taking the screw out and then prying them off and they come off really easily.
Nice job. There we go then. Right, so also we're removing the drawer fronts on this one.
Yes, so hardware needs to come off and then the drawer fronts are going to come off after that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if we had to remove them. Actually, the handles went through on this one and we thought at the time it might be easier to remove the drawer fronts, and in retrospect it actually gave us more trouble than it was worth, I think. But nonetheless, there we go. There's the pile of parts. So we've got the handles and the drawer fronts and the separate drawers underneath, all ready to start work.
So next is another important step. We've got to clean and degrease these units. The degreaser is really good for getting off all the old wax and polish that's maybe on the units, and that will help our primer to really stick and make sure the finish is great. And then obviously we've got to get these holes filled. So we use a P38 2-part epoxy, just mixing it there and then getting it into all these hardware holes to get that all filled. And also the fluting as well. This will take a couple of goes to get this filled properly, but this is the first lot going on here.
And of course it's important to work it right in at this stage. You don't want to put too much on that you can't sand it off later, but work it in as deep as we can. So there you are, then you're sanding the P38 back now.
That's it, yeah, so giving it a bit of a scuff sand and sanding back that P38 so that it's nice and smooth, ready for priming.
Yeah, it's looking better already. You can actually see that it's filling in even the marks left in the lacquer, because the handles would have been fitted in the factory when the lacquer was still fairly soft.
Here we go then, just on the units now. There were some dings in the actual units, and it also needed a scuff sand, and obviously all of that fluting needed to be sanded back as well. Yeah,
it's looking better, but it's going to take a few coats, I think, so we'll come back for a second pass shortly. But first we wanted to seal it, and we're using this bin shellac primer from Zinza. It just gives us a bit of a stock check, as it were, so we know there are going to be a few little marks and dings still left in there, but quite often it's nice to get a nice white unifying coat of primer on there, just to see exactly where we're at, and helps to highlight any of the parts that are still required. So we're just doing, I think at this stage we did one of the chassis, because I think the other one still needed a bit of work, and perhaps I think I was priming this while Rachel was actually out there sort of scuff sanding the other one in readiness. Oh, also I did find a broken piece of the wood on the bottom as well, so we just put some Type 1 glue and clamped that in and sorted that out. And you can see why we wanted to hold off on priming this one, because there were still quite a few little dings. As we said earlier, pine is a very soft wood, and you can see that we already need to do some work, but we've already sanded down the other stuff here, and it's starting to look a bit better, and started just to highlight some of those smaller little marks that we still need to fill.
Yeah, so the primer really shows up all those tiny little marks there, so we're just using a really ultra fine filler now here, this dolphin glaze, again 2-part, but that's just a little bit finer so that it'll fill all those smaller holes and dings, so we can get a nice smooth finish.
Yeah, you can see we're literally just stroking the fingers across there, just finding any tiny little marks and filling those accordingly. And also I'm taking the opportunity just to fill in some of the most visible ones, and indeed putting the first top coat, as it were, of filler over that fluted area, just prepping it better before we sand it down. So although we didn't show it in the video here, we repeated the process a couple of times, letting it harden, sand it down, refill, sand, prime and what have you, and then we ultimately moved on to the second unit to do the same. And the devil is in the detail with the prep work, but once you're really happy with the smoothness and uniformity of the finish, then we can crack on with all of the priming and get ready for the paint. But in the meantime, it's time to move on and do the drawers.
So we actually ran out of our bin shellac primer while we were doing this project, so while we were waiting for it to arrive, we thought we'd turn our attention to the drawers. They were not in bad condition at all, just needed a bit of a hoover. We didn't want to line them because we didn't want to cover up the nice little Ducal labels in there. One of the drawers just had some greasy marks in it, but that came off with a wet wipe, and then we turned our attention to salving the drawers. We use a Wise Owl furniture salve. It just nourishes the wood and gives it a nice gentle sheen, and it's also lemon scented, so it's lovely for when you open in the drawers after it's been put on.
So last few minute touches to this other cabinet, then you can see all of those tiny white dots are actually little holes, like a rash inside the wood from where it's been rubbing against something, I guess in transport or something. Also you can see that all the dolphin glaze has now been feathered in, and where those fluted areas are, we've had 2 or 3 passes there and sanded those to the point where we are now happy to get ahead and paint them. I did actually record a summary whilst I was actually doing the work over in the shop, so I'll pass you back to a couple of days younger me for a quick summary. Okay guys, that's probably about it for day 2. So what we've done is put some dolphin glaze on the drawer fronts, sanded them, primed them, more glaze, more prime, more sand. In fact, the drawers have had 3 coats of primer now. Now, the paint we're using technically doesn't need any primer, but it's always good to get a nice uniform base as well. So by having plenty of coats on there, we've got a nice even base for our paint. Likewise for the actual main carcasses, they've had anywhere between 2 coats and 3 coats where required. And again, it's been sand and fill, sand and fill, sand and fill. I think I've done the whole process about 4 times, maybe 5 now. So I know there's a lot of shadows and stuff on there, but you know, they're not perfect. This is a soft wood. They are solid wood, as you can see. Really nice quality units, very nicely built, but they are soft wood, so they were absolutely riddled with literally hundreds of small nicks and dings and what have you over the years. I've got the majority of them out, but it does of course become diminishing returns, and this is, you know, 30 to 40-year-old furniture at the end of the day. So the idea with this really now is to get it refreshed and give it a new lease of life, ready for a new owner. We're not trying to make it brand new furniture. It will always have a certain patina to it. But anyway, there we are. So like I say, this has had filler, primer, sanding, wiping, more filler, more sanding, wiping, priming, wiping, sanding. It's just been one of those days. And I think what I'm going to do now is just let it bask in the sunshine, and I think you just let it all sort of cure and go off overnight really, and we'll come back tomorrow. We do have the new paint. I'm really excited actually, can't wait to open the new paint, so we might just have a look at it in a moment. But other than that, we'll call that a day for day 2. I know I said I'd finished for the day, but now is a good time just to put a little bit of knifing putty on. So this stuff's even finer than dolphin glaze, and it's in just the right light here, so you can see a whole bunch more little nicks and scratches that I've just filled in, even after I've so-called finished for the day. They're so fine. You can see even as the light changes, so it disappears. They're that fine, but it's the sort of thing that just helps to make it look a little bit better when it's finished. This shouldn't take too long to dry, so I may or may not tickle it with some sandpaper and get another coat of primer on tonight. Might just leave it be because it's so ultra fine, the paint will cover that without any problems anyway. Okay guys, it's day 3, paint day. So managed to get a bit of primer on last night after that knifing putty. So we're all good to go now. All I need to do is just give everything a quick sand, probably with some 320 grit, just to get the sort of texture off from the primer, and triple check or quadruple check for any major surface imperfections. There will be a few minor ones of course, but we're pretty much good to go. So anyway, exciting times, let's get on with it.
So all the hard work and the prep is done. We just need to mask off the inside and the backs, and then it's time for the fun bits. Let's get on with the painting.
And here they are after 2 coats in fact, and they really do look fantastic. As always, this Rustoleum paint has sprayed beautifully. It's a gorgeous plummy chocolate colour, and I really do think that it brings them to life and certainly brings them into the 21st century. Super pleased with that. We're on the home stretch.
Yeah, they really are looking gorgeous, and all that's left to do is to get rid of all this masking, and then we need to fit the hardware.
We've chosen some satin champagne gold bar handles for these, which I think are going to look absolutely fantastic and complement the colour perfectly. So we just need to do a few dimensions, set them up on the jig and get them mounted.
And with that, we will see you on the other side of a fade to black for the final reveal.
And so what a transformation. Here they are, the matching pair of Ducal nightstands. Absolutely fantastic, super pleased with them. They were always a good make, and Ducal was well worth saving and bringing into the 21st century. Not only have they had a new paint scheme, but they've also been slightly remodelled as well, having taken out some of that original fussiness. So new handles and a slight new redesign on the outside by removing those finials and little grooves and extra details that kind of cluttered it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at that satin shine on the finish. They're absolutely beautiful. Now, there is a link in the description and a discount code for Rustoleum, which you can use on their entire range of paints, so do check that out as well.
And we're not sponsored by Rustoleum, but we use a lot of their colours. They're lovely to work with, and there's a great range, so check out some of our other videos as well to see some of the colours that we've used there. But also the handles are really cool on this. That satin sort of champagne gold is slightly less brash than a bright gold and really suits the plummy colour of the units. So we're really pleased with them. Well, we hope you found it useful, but do remember, as always, it's the preparation is the real key. So don't cut corners on the prep and you can get some fantastic results.
We really hope you enjoyed the video, guys. These nightstands are now available for sale, so do check out our Facebook and Instagram for more details on these.
Indeed, and we did have a customer come to view them immediately after listing, only to find unfortunately they were slightly too large for their space, so they commissioned us to make these John E. Coyle quality units as well to match instead, which they've now taken and are in their happy new home. But we did make them in the same colour with the same handles, just as they requested.
Yes, so if you'd like us to refinish a piece of furniture for you, then please do get in touch with us via Facebook or Instagram, or you can view our current stock for availability as well.
Indeed. So thank you very much indeed for watching again. Hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notifications bell for updates and share with your friends. We'd love to see you again, but in the meantime, thank you for your company. We'll see you soon. All the best for now. Bye bye.